What is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Drive for Show, DFS for Dough here on RotoGrinders. Another week of golf on tap. This week, we've got a more exciting field, more exciting tournament this week than we had a week ago. And last week was very quiet. We couldn't even fill our weekly snake draft last week. So that was disappointing. The regulars, the folks we count on every week to fill that snake draft were just not present last week. So hopefully everybody's around, excited, refreshed, what have you, for another elevated field tournament this week at the Wells Fargo Championship. A lot more for us to talk about and more golfers to break down than what we had last week. That's not to say that last week wasn't interesting, though. As we kind of get things rolling, we'll take a quick look back at that. I am Justin Van Zuiden, STL Cardinals 84. I've got Derek Farnsworth, Mr. Notorious, alongside me as usual. And Noto, we talk a lot about the unpredictability of golf, yet it seems like that Mexico Open, the 2 years that we've had it, it's the only guys that you'd consider as the top golfers in the field beating up on everybody else. And that's exactly what we had last week with Jon Rahm and Tony Finau going 1-2 there at the top, with Finau taking the tournament down. And pretty rare, I think, that we can count the number of times that the top two priced golfers have finished 1-2 in an event. It doesn't happen all that often, but seems like the cream rises to the top there in that Mexico Open every year.
Yeah, they finished 1-2 in consecutive years. I have to imagine they were the most expensive last year as well. So that is pretty strange. And then you have Brandon Wu also finished in the top 5. I think he did last year as well. It might have been a top 10. But yeah, very similar leaderboard. And it's really just nice seeing Tony Finau turn into a winner. For the longest time, he was just one of those guys that was always in the mix, couldn't close. He finally got that playoff win after his Puerto Rico win, many moons ago. And all of a sudden, he's rattled off 4 wins in his last 18 starts. His approach play has been elite. He's been a good putter, and he's always, had distance and, good hands around the green. So one of my favorites. I don't know if you saw the video. He went and played the par 3 course with his kids. He was caddying for them just right after he won. I mean, the guy seems like a great dude, and I can't wait to see him again on the Netflix series next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Seems like a fantastic guy. He got as many wins over the course of the last week as my Cardinals did. So kudos to Finau and the Cardinals for each winning one time in the past week. The baseball is irritating me right now, so happy to talk some golf and get the Cardinals, who are on pace to finish like 60 games out of first place, 10 games back after a month. Get them out of my mind for a little while. The good news is we got plenty of stuff to keep us occupied. We got golf. We had some incredible NHL Game 7s over the weekend. Playoff hockey is just a little bit of a different beast to where you get a lot of people who maybe don't watch regular season hockey watching the playoffs. And Game 7, especially with the one going to overtime, it could end at any moment, which makes it a little bit different. In football, you're driving down for the winning score. In baseball, you kind of know how many outs you have left. But in playoff hockey and overtime, Game 7, you never know when it might end. And so Florida, Seattle pulled off some upsets. We're taping this on Monday night, so we've got the Rangers and the Devils tonight. NBA playoffs are going full steam. Warriors took down the Kings over the weekend, so plenty of stuff on the sports calendar to keep us busy this time of year.
Yeah, a lot of fun. I'm even watching a little bit of hockey, so that's pretty rare. I don't really know any of the players, but it's fun to watch once you get into the playoffs. And did you join the Move in May that our company's doing?
No, I didn't. I don't know. I must have missed something here. You're going to have to fill me in.
Well, so Better Collective, they're just doing this big thing where you get as many steps as you can. They broke us up into teams. So, I'm trying to get as many steps in per day for the whole month of May. And I log in this morning to see the leaderboard. Somebody already had 25,000 steps before I woke up. So don't think I'm going to be doing very well on the whole leaderboard, but we're gonna get as many steps as we can.
Let's see where we're at today. I'm only at 1,600 at the moment, so I'm gonna have to go. I have to mow the yard tomorrow though, and that's usually so we've got fairly big yard, and it's fenced in, so I can't get a rider in through the back fence. And basically, it's about a 3-hour process. It's about a 15,000 step push mowing job for me. So I'll get my steps in tomorrow, saving up the old hammies today to be ready to go tomorrow. But
maybe we can bring you in as the 6th man off the bench.
There you go. Bring in somebody off the bench. Us old guys are going to get tired in a hurry. You need a little extra help there. All right. Well, we mentioned Rahm and Finau at the top last week, and had some pretty good calls here on the show. Both of us. Eric Cole was the guy we talked about last week. Finished top 5. Noto's model guy that he liked as a potential punt, Alejandro Tosti. I ended up throwing him in a few lineups, and he finished tied for 10th for somebody that was down in the 6Ks. Bramlett, we talked about him on the show. Talked about Carson Young as a potential punt. Our boy Yeager finishing inside the top 20. So it was kind of a crummy tournament, but I think we hit on some decent calls last week.
Yeah, fairly predictable, which is really all you want to see in golf in an unpredictable sport. Toasty or Tosti, however you say his last name, he became the trendy pick of the week. I think Data Golf had him rated pretty high, and all of a sudden he was getting double-digit ownership, and our Discord was all over the map on what they wanted to do with him. But if you played him, it ended up working out. He had a really low Sunday, which helped me in Showdown. Another guy, Akshay Bhatia, so he's played well enough to get a temporary membership, but just like Will Zalatoris, he doesn't have his PGA Tour card, so none of the points that he's getting are going to get him into the playoffs, which is just, I don't understand. I mean, I think
so
he would be
stupid.
like,
You need this whole process needs to be revamped because it's like you got to have a flow chart to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, so he needs to win just to get into the playoffs now, and especially with the designated, schedule next year, he's not going to get into a lot of the big events just because, he's not going to be able to make the playoffs. So I don't love the way it's set up, but at least he got the temporary membership secured for now.
Yeah, nice to see him playing well. Also, another big week from him. So we'll see where he leads with that special temporary membership, and we've seen a lot of guys take advantage of that. It was kind of a wild tournament last week, lots of ups and downs. Wyndham Clark was another kind of top end, basically one of the top end picks outside of Rahm and Finau. Started with a 73, battled back, made the cut, closed with a 65, so he got inside the top 25. Benny On shot 7 under on Sunday to move up the leaderboard. He was one of the pricier options in that weak field last week also. And I mean, basically, if you didn't make the cut, it's probably because you just didn't play well with the weak field. You can't really blame, not getting the opportunity to make the cut. So, and most of the higher owned guys did make the cut. It was fairly chalky in terms of the way the week played out. But again, Finau, Rahm, 1-2, and we'll see if they come back next year. And if they don't, that field will get even weaker yet. So, assuming this stays at the same place on the calendar with a elevated event the week following. Anything else from last week that you want to pass along?
I don't think so. I do love that Jon Rahm teed it up, though. I mean, he teed it up. He likes to be the ambassador for, the Spanish-speaking countries and golf, and I think that's pretty cool because he ended up taking this week off, a chance to win, a lot more money than he would have last week. So I thought it was pretty cool that he ended up defending his title. And like Brian said in the chat, no Rahm, no Scheffler. So it's wide open for the first time in a long time in terms of these designated events.
Question becomes, does Rahm play at this Mexico Open next year now that he's not the defending champion anymore? You think he comes back?
It sounds like it just sounds like he wants to. It's important to him. So I think he will, but we'll see. I mean, he's guaranteed to finish top 2. Why not?
That's right. That's always pretty nice floor there if your floor is second place. And that was even after a fairly slow start on Thursday. I think he bogeyed the first hole. He was maybe even par through his first 7 or 8. And, just like at the Masters, ended up coming roaring back to be in the mix there come the weekend. All right, let's turn our attention to this week. Wells Fargo Championship. Again, we'll hope to revive the snake draft here tonight at the end of the show. So hope we can get enough of you to stick around to participate in that, because we do have a full 156 golfer field this week, and most of the top names outside of those handful that we just mentioned are in the field this week. The tournament is back at Quail Hollow, which has generally been the host course. Quail Hollow hosted the President's Cup, so they were getting it ready for that. So it did not host last year. The name of the course where they played last year is escaping me at the moment, but it's irrelevant because they're back at Quail Hollow this year. The course has undergone some changes. It's probably going to play fairly difficult, you would think, and it's always been a somewhat challenging test. So what do we make of the venue here?
Yeah, I believe this is the first field of 156 that we've had this year. We might have had one other, but I think this might be the first. And this course has been top 10 in difficulty each of the last 5 years. So you're going to see some carnage. You're going to see hopefully a lower 6 of 6 ownership, come the weekend. It's a par 71 now. It used to be a par 72, and it's lengthened. It's over 7,500 yards. I mean, this course has hosted PGA Championship. It hosted the President's Cup last fall, which was a lot of fun. And historically, it's been a bomber-friendly course. If you look at Data Golf, they definitely like driving distance, as a stat to look at this week. The fairways here are pretty wide. The rough here is pretty thick. So if you are going to miss the fairways, it makes sense to be closer to the hole if you're going to be hitting out of the rough. So I'm looking at driving distance, looking at stroke speed off the tee. Over 50% of the approach shots were hit from over 175 yards last year. So long irons, a lot of long irons. And then, anytime you have a difficult course, you're going to have to scramble. You're going to have to putt well. And these are Bermuda greens. They used to have, I think, Tip Eagle Bermuda greens, and now they have 419 or 9. I can't remember the exact number of Bermuda grass, but whatever it is, it's new. And yeah, if you want to look at some comps, I'm hearing Torrey Pines and Riviera as the top 2 comp courses.
Yeah, it would make sense. Longer, more difficult tracks, and where scrambling is often important. So I am in agreement with those metrics this week, and should be fun to see how the course plays. So again, if you're looking at course history data, throw last year's out the window. Was there another year back farther where they didn't play here, or maybe they just didn't have the tournament at all, or maybe I'm misremembering?
So yeah, 2020 was COVID, and then when they had the PGA Championship, I don't think they played this event here.
Yeah. So do you remember? You know what year that was?
JT1. We can find out real quick.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Although he won 2, so that's not gonna help. Most it's the year Brian Harmon won, wasn't it?
2017, it looks like. Yeah, 2017 PGA Championship, and okay,
so that is when Brian Harmon won. So I need to take that year of data out of my course history. So good call.
All right, so that is, and let's see where this event. As I remember that, but I did. Yeah, that was at Eagle Point in 2017. So 2017 was not played here. 2020 was not played at all because of COVID, and 2022 was played at a different venue as well. So be careful if you're going off of course history to not go on the years where it wasn't played at Quail Hollow. All right. In any case, long, difficult course, strong field, reasonable comps that Noto mentioned there with Torrey Pines, Riviera. Those are the types of golfers you're going to want to target this week. And if we look at the top on DraftKings, as usual, 4 golfers above 10K. We've got Finau, last week's champion. We've got Cantlay. We've got Schauffele, and then we've got Rory at 11-1. Rory has a pretty good history of success on this course also. So he is the highest priced of the 4. Finau, of course, coming off that win last week, and Schauffele and Cantlay certainly capable of contending on a difficult course on a big stage as well. So how do you rank those top 4, and do you think you need to prioritize one of them? Because I do think this week there are, more so than we've seen in the past, there are some playable punt options if you need them.
Yeah, there are. And you can also make the case that, the middle of the field is a little bit stronger so that the balance lineups will work as well. So I think you can do either way. I looked up Tony Finau. So the last a couple times he's won. He won back-to-back last summer, and then the last time he won, he finished T7 the next week. So it might be an interesting spot to load up on Finau. He doesn't have the course history like these other guys do. People hate playing the guy coming off of the win. But, man, he's playing so well. The distance is there off the tee, the approach play. Nobody's been better this season. I think he's number one on the PGA Tour strokes gained approach. Talk about, putting's been improved. Around the green game's been improved. So I think Finau's definitely interesting if the ownership's going to be low. If I'm taking one person in terms of their floor, it's got to be Rory McIlroy. His last 9 trips here, he's yet to finish out of the top 20. With the win during that stretch. So I think Rory's probably the safest option. But, I mean, Xander and Cantlay, they're like 2 of the most complete golfers around. They played great here at the President's Cup together. And you can kind of expect them to be lingering on the weekend, although, how often they finish at the very top is another story. But you can make a case for all 4 of these guys. Do you have a preference?
Yeah, I think I'll side with Rory as well. And yeah, you're splitting hairs largely with them, but I'm kind of in lockstep with you. I think Rory and then Finau, if that ownership starts to creep down a little bit coming off the win, tough to, generally if I'm multi-entering, I won't include all of the top 4 guys in my player pool. Haven't decided yet if I'm going to leave Xander or Cantlay out. There's not really a reason on paper that, you'd absolutely have to do it, but McIlroy and Finau definitely my 2 favorite, I think.
Yeah, so we're in agreement there. But yeah, the pricing's not too bad. You can definitely build 2 of these guys in the same lineup.
Yeah, and we'll get to the value guys later that help to make that work, and then we can get to the mid-range builds here, the balanced builds in a little bit also. And because this next, the 9K range is no slouch either. You've got Morikawa in here. You've got Jordan Spieth, who I believe was 5-0 at the President's Cup here. You've got Max Homa, who is a past winner here and played well at the President's Cup also. You've got Matt Fitzpatrick, who our projections, the RotoGrinders projections, really like this week, and who I like also now that he's got more distance. I like the way that this course fits his game. You've got the upside of Hovland in here. You've got Sung J M. I mean, plenty of options in the 9Ks. And then it's rounded out by Jason Day, who, outside of 1 or 2 rough rounds a few weeks ago, has been one of the best golfers in calendar year 2023. So I like this 9K range quite a bit too. What do you make of these guys?
Yeah, I'm going to be going back to Jason Day. I haven't lost enough money on him this year, so might as well throw some more at him. I mean, he's been very good. You mentioned the blow-up rounds at the Masters. Those ones hurt for sure. He was second and had a 5-footer to tie for the lead in his second round, and then missed it, and everything just came, unraveling. So I do like Day. He's won here before. He's got the complete skill set that I'm kind of looking for, plenty of distance, all that good stuff. Outside of that, I don't have a ton of interest. Morikawa and Spieth seem a little overpriced. I mean, Spieth's been great recently, and he was great at the President's Cup, like you mentioned. But, man, it just doesn't feel like a great course for him. Homa's won here twice, but he's been struggling. I mean, he wasn't good at the Masters. He wasn't good. He missed a cut at the Heritage, and then he and Morikawa both missed a cut together at the Zurich. So worried a little bit about his form. I'm okay with Hovland, and then Sungjae kind of with Spieth. I like him on these shorter courses a little bit more than the bomber courses. So for me, it's kind of Jason Day, maybe a little Hovland, and then probably going to be underweight on everybody else.
Yeah, again, I mentioned I like Fitzpatrick a good bit. If you're into the course history, I think Homa is fine. I'm obviously underweight on Spieth pretty much every week, but Morikawa, Homa, Fitzpatrick, I can get behind. Fitzpatrick I have tagged for now, but might have a little bit of exposure to this tier. Day I think is fine also. So if you're not playing one of the stars at the top, you can maybe start with the Fitzpatrick Day type of build, and then that could be the start of maybe your more balanced approach lineup, because the field is much deeper than what we've seen basically since the Masters. We've got Justin Thomas at 8,900. I know that he's been a disappointment, and the putter is frustrating, and he just can't seem to put 4 rounds together. At the Masters was kind of symbolic of how the last 6 months have gone for him. Ends up, I think, bogeying the last couple holes to miss the cut by one. But he's Justin Thomas at $8,900. If you would have told me 6 months ago that Justin Thomas and Ricky Fowler would basically be the same price, I would have looked at you with crazy eyes. So, I'm a sucker for the talent, so I'll get some Thomas at 8,900. But you got Fowler, Cam Young, Sam Burns, Tom Kim, Theegala. Like, a lot of this upper 8K range is a whole lot of risk reward type of plays. Where do you kind of stand on some of these guys?
Yeah, so you mentioned JT. I mean, it's hard to not like him at that price point. The cheetah green's been great. It's just been the putter that's kind of been letting him down. Won the PGA Championship here, like we talked about. Good at the President's Cup. So I'm willing to go back to JT. I do like Fowler. I mean, I know he's overpriced, but man, he's been so good. He's gained 26 strokes on approach in his last 6 starts, and he did win here back in 2012. So maybe he can finally break through, and if not, he's at least going to be in the mix for a top 20. And then, I mean, Cam Young, I think he's going to be the highest owned golfer of the week, at least one of them, if not Rory McIlroy. He's on everybody's betting card, and he finished second here last year. 6 runner-ups in his career. Just kind of feels like the perfect course for him to finally break through with the win.
Interesting that I mean, he's kind of on my radar, but I didn't have him on the radar as being that chalky. I'm trying to get some data up here, but so the second last year, or the year before, or last year when it wasn't played here.
Sorry, I had a little one questioning me. You talk about Cam Young?
Yeah, so you mentioned second. Was he second here?
Yeah.
So last year, where that was played elsewhere, right?
Last year was too.
Yeah, last year was the President's Cup year.
I think they still played.
Or was that 2 years
ago? They still played this event here though. Because Rory won when he hit it left on 18, and then he had to take the drop out of the low river thing.
So what? Hang on a second.
Or was that 2021?
That was 2 years ago. So last year was at TPC Potomac, and it was Homa, and then T2 was Keegan, Matt Fitzpatrick, and Cameron Young, and Rory was 5th. So 2022 data is out if you're going off course history.
So he doesn't have a second place finish then.
That's correct. Not on this course. He does at the tournament, but not on this course.
So play him and Brian Harmon together. Great course history at the event.
The course history is just, it's confusing this week because it's been all over the place. But I thought I had that right, but I didn't want to say anything until I found out for sure in case I had it backwards. But yeah, but Cam Young, I mean, he fits the profile, right? Long hitter.
Yeah.
A guy that should have success on this course. But again, if he gets steamed up a ton, I don't know. I think I'll be underweight. It's a little bit risky, but his floor is pretty low too. So with the other guys in here, I mean, Thomas, and I don't mind taking a shot on Burns, Kim, Hatton, all these guys I think have some upside. So I'll pivot if Cam Young gets too extreme chalk at that price range. All right, the rest of the 8K range, not a whole lot at the bottom end, but Kim, Theegala, I just mentioned. Lowry has kind of struggled to put it together. Fleetwood struggled for consistency. And after you mentioned that Brian Harmon is back a few weeks ago, he got jacked up to 8K in this strong field. So there is no discount on Brian Harmon this week. So interested to see where you land here.
Yeah, he has played well here, not counting the win that wasn't here. But he has a couple of top 25s, and I think he played pretty well here at the PGA Championship in 2017 as well, if I recall correctly. But yeah, 8,000, that's too much for me, even as a Brian Harmon truther. Plus, it's a course where you want to be longer off the tee. He's one of the shortest guys in the field. So I think I'll pass on him. I'm also going to pass on Theegala. He can't gain 10 strokes on and around the greens every week, can he? I mean, it just seems
you would think so.
Like he's losing strokes ball striking and finishing in the top 10. So I think eventually the luck's going to run out, and I love Theegala. I'm always going to root for him, but that does worry me a little bit. I think Hatton's interesting. He's been so good off the tee. Typically, we don't think of him as a guy that is great off the tee, but he's got some really good numbers. He's 7th so far in 2023 in strokes gained off the tee. he can get out there a little bit. And that's pretty much it for me. I don't mind Sam Burns anytime you get him on Bermuda. He's a longer hitter. And I like Tom Kim, and I know we played well here at the President's Cup, but I do think, not being very long off the tee is a pretty big disadvantage here.
Yeah, he's not going to stand out this week, I don't think, in the projections. I don't mind him in some GPP builds, but this kind of lower end of the 8K range, I think I'm just kind of going to leave most of it alone. Go into the higher end of the 7K range for plays here. You've got Wyndham Clark, who is certainly long off the tee, finished strong last week. Keith Mitchell's been very good off the tee over the past year. You've got Keegan, who's going to grade out well in the projections also. As kind of all these guys between 7,600 and 8K. If you want to take a dice roll on whether or not Gary Woodland's short game will show up this week, you can potentially throw him in the mix at 7,600 also. Davis Riley coming off a good performance, obviously, at the team event a few weeks ago with the win at 7,500. He's not grading out very well in projections, but then Chris Kirk also at 7,500 continues to feel a bit underpriced. So I like the upper end of the 7K range. Clark, Keegan, Kirk, I think are all guys that I will be looking at this week. What are you looking at in here?
Yeah, Clark and Keegan definitely on board with those two. Clark has always been known as a bomber putter, but all of a sudden he's gaining strokes on approach. He's gained at least 2 strokes on approach in 7 of his last 8, so I like that quite a bit. Your guy Keith Mitchell has a really good track record here, 2 top 10s in 2021 and 2019. We got to be careful with my course history quoting. It's got me thrown for a loop. I got to go back and change some stuff. But so I think it's a good spot for Keith Mitchell, even though the form has tailed off a little bit. Woodland's interesting given his length off the tee. He might lose 5 strokes on and around the green, but you kind of take your chances there. And then I do like Patrick Rogers. Similar to Wyndham Clark, he's known for his distance and his putting. But the last 3 events, he's gained 10 strokes on approach, 3 straight top 20s. And I think it's just him finally figuring it out a little bit with the irons. And so I'll take some chances with him.
Yeah, don't mind that call. And we tend to have fairly decent luck when the weeks one of us decides to play him. So kind of like that a little bit this week also. So I can get on board with that one. Lower end of the 7K range. Jaeger coming off a good week. Adam Scott is down here. Probably not a Brendan Todd week, since this is a course where you maybe want to go for a little bit more distance off the tee. Seamus Power, he'll pop up at times. Benny On coming off a hot Sunday round. SH Kim, I think, could be somewhat interesting. Nobody, I think that's a stone lock in the lower end of the 7K range, but at least some playable options. What are your thoughts on this tier here?
Yeah, you mentioned Benny On. I don't really think of him as a bomber, but he's top 10 in this field in driving distance, which caught me by surprise. He's been playing, it seems like he's been playing a lot better because he's always at the top of the leaderboard at some point. But he's making cuts, he's making birdies, and at 7,100, that's pretty good for me. You mentioned Jaeger. I think that's interesting. I was going to quote his T6 here last year, but it wasn't here. So, the T18 was good. He gained 8 strokes on approach last week. And Adam Scott, I don't know what to do, man. He's lost 15 strokes on approach in his last 4 starts. He's getting it done.
That used to be his game.
Yeah, he's getting it done putting and short game, which wasn't his game. But he does have distance off the tee. 7,300. He actually rates out decently well for the first time in a long time for me. So I might have a little bit of him, and everyone else I don't have a strong take on.
Yeah, I don't love a whole lot in this range either. I might play a little Benny On this week. I think it's because this range isn't that exciting. I think I'll go for guys that maybe have shown us some upside. You could consider a Power or a Poston or something like that, but Benny On, I think, is my favorite in that range. We got Batia here at 7K. Also, again, another guy that obviously we've seen can give you some upside at times. Anything else above 7,000 that you want to touch on that we missed?
I think that's it for me. Yeah.
All right, we can go talk about the punt range. Hopefully we got enough of you watching that are interested in doing the snake draft tonight. We'll get to that here in just a couple of minutes, but I mentioned some targetable players under 7K, maybe for the first time in a while. I'm going to throw out my random YOLO GPP play of the week. That's Matthew Neesmith, who we've talked about. I mean, super inconsistent. He's largely had a terrible year, but we brought him up a few weeks ago at the team event. His partner is escaping me now. You recall, who did he play with in that?
Taylor Moore.
Taylor Moore, that's it. And obviously Moore has been having a really good year, and he kind of carried them through a little bit of that. But they shot 26 under, finished tied fourth. Neesmith had made the cut at the RBC Heritage before that, finished top 40 at the Arnold Palmer in March. So has been showing maybe a few signs of playing a little bit better. We've seen him, have hot stretches before. So not going to grade out well in projections. Probably not going to eclipse 2 or 3% ownership. Probably not a guy you want to be throwing as your last guy in your cash game lineup. That just probably doesn't feel like the smartest decision in a full field, strong field event. But I think Neesmith is a guy that's interesting, could give you some upside. You get guys like Will Gordon and Bramlett in here, who we've talked about a little bit over the past few weeks too. Just at least a few names. Eric Cole coming off that T5 finish last week. So those are a few that stood out to me that could at least potentially be GPP guys.
Yeah, my favorites are going to be Cole, like you mentioned, and Bramlett, like you mentioned. Bramlett's more of the bomber that can putt, and Cole is actually a really good putter coming off of a T5 finish. If you want to chase some upside, Pearson Coody is in the field at 6,500. We've seen him have some really good rounds, and he's coming off of 3 straight top 15s. I'm guessing those are all on the Korn Ferry Tour. But like we saw last week with Toasty or Tosty, sometimes that form on the Korn Ferry Tour can translate over onto the PGA Tour. If you want to play Toasty or Tosty again, 6,500, he's now had 5 straight top 25s. 5 straight top 25s for him. So there are some interesting names. I think some people will play Carson Young. He's coming off of some good results, a couple top 20s in a row. Anybody else? Oh, did you see the Michael Kim scare last week?
What are you referencing?
Well, so late Wednesday night came out that he tweeted that he hurt his back on the range on Wednesday.
Oh, okay. No, I didn't see that.
So took him out of my player pool. Ends up playing great. So that was kind of frustrating. I was so happy that I saw his tweet late at night to get him out of there, and then he ended up playing well all 4 rounds. But he's back in the field, and he is 6,600. He's added some distance off the tee. He's been really good cut maker this season.
Yeah, he has. He's definitely shown a lot more consistency this year for sure. Good to see for the former JDC champ. All right. Well, it's going to be time, I think, for us to attempt to fire up the snake draft. So those of you who are just listening on the podcast feed and want to tune out for the week, we will bid you farewell. Appreciate you checking us out as always. And for those of you who are watching on YouTube and don't want to continue, just hit the thumbs up button before you turn us off. We appreciate that very much. Thanks as always for watching. And Justin and Noto, we'll see you next week. But those of you that are still watching, we don't have a huge live audience, and I think we should just try let's try the 6-man this week as opposed to the 12. See if we can get it filled. If we can get some momentum back, we go back to the 12 next week. So as usual, we do the $5 snake draft on DraftKings. We're going to try to get the 6-man here filled, which was 0 of 6 before I hopped in there. So
yeah, I always like doing these because I always miss some golfers in the player pool. And you're like, oh, hey, I might need to add that guy to my player pool.
All right, it was giving me all sorts of notifications. I had to do a factory reset on my computer, my internet. Now it fills them in like 30 seconds.
Let's go. We're back.
All right. So for those of you who wanted to get in, sorry if you didn't. I just didn't want to be the 12-man was at 0 of 12, and it just doesn't. It's not good if we're sitting here waiting 15 minutes for it to fill. So, all right, I will share. Hopefully now that my laptop's been reset, this doesn't act up. Okay, so Noto's picking first, and I'm picking fifth.
All right.
Don't love that fifth spot this week, but that's okay. There's a pretty clear top four, in my opinion, but maybe one of them will fall to me.
It's true. Yeah. Well, Finau might fall to you.
It depends on how everybody above me values Spieth, but we shall see. Well, what do we make of the NBA now? Are the Heat going to continue their little magical run here?
Man, I don't know. They need Julius Randle back, the Knicks, and now Butler's questionable for tomorrow's game. So, yeah, two big stars definitely in doubt for game 2. But, man, the Knicks have been so good on the road this season that I could see them coming back and winning. Brunson also questionable.
The Knicks and the Cavs played some old school games that looked at the one game was like 40-37 at halftime. I'm like, I haven't seen games that have more points than that in the first quarter these days. But yeah, defensive intensity ramps up a little bit in the playoffs for sure. But
sorry, Dan, we had to do the 6-man this week. Just make sure it failed, and then it failed too fast. So Dan, next week we'll go back to the 12-man.
After we dropped off, there was only like 20 or 25 watching live, and I figured 12 would be just it'd be tough to fill. So we'll sorry if there was a couple of you out there that wanted to get in and couldn't, but we'll attempt to go back to the full 12-man next
All
Monday.
Right, I am on the clock. Pretty easy pick in number 1.
I think going Rory number 1, you certainly can't go wrong with that. So I really don't like picking fifth here, but yeah, no Finau falling. Like, see, I don't know who to pick fifth. Like, I'm not picking Spieth. I don't love Hovland. Probably either Homa or Morikawa. I'll side with Homa's history here, but I don't like picking in that spot this week. I shall deal with it.
So when I said Homa's won here twice, is that not?
That should be accurate. I believe he won.
Okay.
Man, I was hoping to take Fitzpatrick coming back, and he got picked 7th. Now I'm just all flummoxed here. I'll go with Thomas. Maybe that's a good sign when I don't get the guys I want, because whenever I get the guys I want, I don't cash in these things. So we'll see. So, all right.
So Homa won this last year. So I think.
Okay, yeah, I had to backtrack. I was multitasking with the draft there, but so he won here in 2019 on this course.
Yeah.
He did not win here last year because it wasn't played. So he's won on this course once, but he played well at the President's Cup as well, I believe. He was 4-0. So
yeah, anyone using the first look for course history, I'll have that fixed tonight. All right, Spieth. Oh, that's a kind of ugly range. I'm going to go Ricky.
Spieth is still there at 12. That's crazy. We got a bunch of Spieth haters listening to the show. I'm proud. I've rubbed off on everyone.
I got to take him now, though.
Yeah, I think you got to take him. I'm not going to fault you for taking him with the 13th pick. Boy, that worked out for you. That draft spot worked out well, leading off there. Jealous. Rosters are going to look a whole lot better with just 6 than instead of 12. All right. Let's see. Tigala, Hatton, Tom. I really don't like this range either. I just got stuck in a bad spot here. Let's go with Hatton. See who Yaz's Army snipes here on the turn of rounds 3 and round 4. Matt Kuchar. All right.
Kuchar, we didn't bring him up at all.
No, I wouldn't have. I think the length is an issue for me this week. So, though he's been playing pretty well. Oh my goodness, he takes Keith Mitchell. It's Clark or Keegan. It's Wyndham, Clark, or Keegan.
I think Clark's safer at this point. Keegan's been so up and down, but he's got a lot of upside.
Both got some ceiling. I'll take Clark, and then if Keegan Keegan goes the next pick. So fair enough.
All right, there goes Tigala. We didn't talk about Corey Connors. He seems very safe.
Yeah, I think he's fine. I don't really have a strong take one way or the other. Good ball striker, obviously. He's going to put himself in better positions, and he's been a little more up and down than we're used to seeing from him of late, but I think he's all right. And there he goes. Everyone's getting drafted as we bring them up.
Kim and Lowry and Harmon are dropping. I'm going Woodland and Rogers.
They're going to keep dropping. See who Gasman takes. I believe he was a winner a few weeks ago of this thing when we pretty much a draft full of regulars here tonight. I'm familiar with everybody from hanging out in these, so appreciate your company as always. Gasman takes Tom Kim. There goes the thought of maybe taking him if it gets back to me. There goes Taylor Moore. There goes Lowry. I'm going to go with Kirk. I will be tempted by Harmon if he has his army doesn't take him in either of the two spots. I think that's a reasonable enough spot to take him, but take him if you want, sir. Going with Davis Riley. And
Riley's a good pick for this format.
And Harmon.
Because if he finishes dead last, he's not going to hurt you.
All right. I am up again. And we'll go with our boy Jaeger. Somebody's got to take him. Probably about 10 or 12 guys in this range that are somewhat interchangeable in terms of where they're ranked versus where you can pick them here. I don't think there's a set guy that stands out above the rest at this point. It was Grillo, who I believe played well in this event last year on a different course as well. There goes Adam Hadwin. So now Noto will make his last two picks.
I'll go Cam Davis. He's been playing well. Then I don't know. Benny on. There we go.
There's the punt. We'll take Adam Scott if he makes it back to me. Let's search for a replacement. Bramlett, I think, is an option. Though that might be going a little bit too far down. Joel Damon just hasn't been playing well enough. Oh my goodness, Adam Scott gets taken right before my pick. Boy, we got all of my guys got sniped right in front of my face tonight. And I'll go with Seamus Power. I think he's reasonable enough for this format as well.
Siwoo just dropping.
Doesn't want me to remove him from my queue. Fine, I'll just leave him in there. All right. Oh, and it left. Well, I really don't like my roster because everyone I wanted to take got picked right in front of me. But again, maybe that's a good sign because my track record with the snake drafts hasn't been good pretty much all year. So we'll attempt to reverse that curse this week. And thanks to those of you who joined and listened along with us. And for those of you that didn't quite get in, we'll try to go back to the full 12-person draft next week. So with that, probably time to put a bow on the show for this week. Noto, anything else that we have missed?
Nope. Good luck, guys. Should be a fun week. And then PGA Championship right around the corner.
Crazy how fast the calendar turns. We're already into May. Hope you guys all have a great week and good luck with all your contests. Enjoy the golf and all the other playoffs going on. maybe my Cardinals will turn it around before next week a little bit. Maybe they can win 2 games this week. Who knows? But thanks to Noto for joining me. I am Justin. Thanks to Steve for producing behind the scenes for us as well. And we wish you all the best of luck, everybody. Take care.